Hello, it's Mechanic Link. What's your opinion on a transmission fluid flush versus a fluid change? For clarity, a transmission fluid change is actually better known as a drain and fill. To do a proper transmission fluid flush, you need one of these expensive machines that can range anywhere between $2,000 to $10,000. What you would do is disconnect a transmission line, use two of these fittings, and put this machine in series in the transmission fluid loop. One tank would already be filled with clean transmission fluid, and the other tank would catch the old dirty transmission fluid. You would turn on this machine, you would turn on your vehicle, you would shift through all the gears trying to get all the old fluid out until you see fresh fluid getting dumped into the waste tank. Now, to do a drain and fill is actually very straightforward. You open the drain plug and let all the old fluid come out, and once it's done, you put the drain plug back in. You would open the fill plug and you would feed new transmission fluid until it starts to overflow out of the fill plug. And before you close the fill plug, you would actually turn on the vehicle, run through all the gears, and then add more transmission fluid as necessary until it starts to overflow out of the fill plug. Now, there's actually an argument for each side on which is better, depending if you believe on one particular wives' tale. I'm sure you all know it. If you change the transmission fluid in an old vehicle, you might create more problems than solve. Thing is, transmission fluid is not just transmission fluid. There are additives like detergents and corrosion preventatives. Over time, those additives break down, and naturally you get debris coming from the transmission after tens or hundreds of thousands of miles. After a while, it turns more into like a slushy, which means that transmission over time is more broken in and it's more accustomed to that slushy mix. So if you introduce new fluid, that can mess with the tolerances. So let's rewind a moment. If you believe in the old wives' tale, then you would go with the first school of thought, and you are more likely to opt for a drain and fill. If your vehicle calls for, say, 10 quarts of transmission fluid, a drain and fill will do approximately half. Half the fluid would be new, half the fluid would be old, which means you would land somewhere in the middle. The counter to the old wives' tale is those problems were already there, and new transmission fluid is not going to add more. And from that, it makes perfect sense to go with a full transmission fluid exchange. Personally, I tend to lean in the second school of thought. I don't really believe in the old wives' tale, but I would rather do a drain and fill in more frequent increments. And the reason why is because I absolutely fucking hate this machine. I can't even express how much I hate this machine. These machines are never new. They're at least 15 years old. Oh yeah, sure, you start with 30 fittings, but after a decade, you end up with 6. And of course, the pump breaks down twice a year. And the flow dial always sticks, so you have to tap it like a madman just to see if it even works. So what do you all prefer?